Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to Reaching for the Moon star Miranda Otto and director Bruno Barreto. Stick around and be alert for references to not just two wives, but two husbands, two rings, and an endless assortment of big-footed Middle-earthers. So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview, brought to you by Amazon.com, Audible.com, and 1-800-DIAL-DJs. Please stop by the website, MrMedia.com, click on our advertisers, support the show. And remember, there's more than 1,000 interviews available at MrMedia.com. We've been doing this since February 2007. Hope you'll find something you like. And thanks for listening. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience that includes the cast of the animated film Rio, as well as the general manager of the beachfront Copacabana Hotel in Rio de Janeiro, who is still trying to recoup the long-distance telephone charges from my stay in 2008 in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. For the past 5 years, I've been angling for a way back to Brazil, and particularly to the astonishing city of Rio de Janeiro. And now that I've watched a new film called Reaching for the Moon, I want to return in a time machine so that I can take in the remarkable city as it was in the 1950s, when revolution was in the air and social mores came tumbling down. In director Bruno Barreto's new film, Miranda Otto plays the real-life American poet Elizabeth Bishop, a woman who can make any social setting uncomfortable, in any city, in any country. She is a woman who is ill at ease in her own skin, and leaving America to visit her friend Mary in Brazil doesn't change any of that. In fact, it just makes it worse. Oh, and there's that business of Elizabeth's repressed sexuality. She is, we soon learn, a lesbian. And that adds an entirely different twist to the story. Now, pulling all of this together is Miranda Otto as Elizabeth and Glória Pires as Lota, who, when we meet her, is in the midst of an affair with Elizabeth's college friend Mary, played by Tracy Mittendorf. It is a romantic triangle rife with sexual tension, societal pressure, alcoholism, and, lest I forget, Elizabeth Bishop's real-life Pulitzer Prize for poetry. Joining me today is the director of Reaching for the Moon, Bruno Barreto, best known in the United States, I suspect, for Dona Flor and her two husbands, and actress Miranda Otto, who my daughter, watching over my shoulder as I watched Reaching for the Moon, recognized from the Lord of the Rings films. Bruno and Miranda, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be here.
Very good to be here.
Glad to have you both. Enjoyed the film. Bruno, let me start with you. What are the dangers in adapting the lives of real people to film, as you have here?
Well, it's to just get trapped in reality, and reality doesn't necessarily translate well into fiction, right? And I set myself out to do, to tell a story in an entertaining way. So we had to take a few license, but keep the essence of the character, because otherwise, it would just be the purpose of bringing this character to life on the big screen. And I think that's what Miranda did beautifully, because, as you said, Bishop really didn't get out of her way to be liked or to be nice. She was an uncompromising bitch in the good sense of the word.
He said that, folks. That never came out of my mouth.
No, okay, but that's what I read. So, but anyway, but Miranda did this in a beautiful way in the sense that you can't take your eyes of Bishop on the big screen. You wanna know more about her. She became a very enticing, very fascinating, asshole. Someone who really didn't want to, be. She wanted to be liked by what she wrote and not by who she was. And I think that's very uncompromising and remarkable. And Lota was this larger than life character, a lot more easy to be fascinated by.
And so, Berta, where can you take liberties with a story like this, and where do you have to, hew to the actual facts of the story more carefully?
Well, that's hard to point out because we had to combine characters. We had to jump ahead in time. Actually, I wish I had even taken more liberties, to make the narrative a little bit more condensed and in time. But I think the tension is all there, above all, because it's not a biopic at all. It's a love story.
Right.
And it's a love story to talk about loss and how, if you wanna win, you've got to know how to lose. You've got to learn how to lose. And it's about how the weak, dysfunctional alcoholic Bishop gets stronger and stronger, because one way or the other she knows how to deal with loss, and how the doer, winner, strong gets weak and weaker because she just avoids loss at all costs.
All right, so Miranda, let's talk about, now these are Bruno's words, this bitch and asshole that you play in the film. You play Elizabeth Bishop as a compelling, complex human being with many secrets and an equal number of frailties and strengths. I mean, how much did you know about her before the production began?
Before I read the script, I knew nothing about Elizabeth Bishop. I didn't know Elizabeth Bishop as a poet or anything. So reading the script was like a revelation to me. I didn't know anything about her or Lota or their amazing lives. I then furiously delved into everything I could get my hands on, including this book called Remembering Elizabeth Bishop, an Oral History, which had various interviews with people who knew her throughout her whole life. So there was lots of really interesting things to learn in there about how different people saw her. You know how in different situations you can be seen as such a different person. Other people, what you were like at school to what you're like in the office, or, it's different people see you different ways. So that was really helpful. And I mean, I never saw her. I mean, I think that's the trick to acting. I never really saw her as a bitch or tricky or any of that. I loved her. So it's hysterical when people say that to me, because I completely understood what she was going through and understood why she would say certain things or behave in certain ways. To me, it made absolute sense. I guess I'm a little kind of, reserved and waspy myself, and I kind of identified with that, being in Rio among all these, very emotional and exuberant people. I felt I became whiter every day.
I have to say, when I was down there a few years ago, I felt exactly the way you're describing. I felt like day by day I was getting whiter and whiter and more repressed, and I thought of myself as a very open-minded, very, live your life kind of guy, but it really is a very different place, and you guys do a really good job of contrasting the way she is versus the way Rio was, and I'm sure, I know still is.
Yeah, no, it is sort of a culture shock. Like, it's a wonderful culture shock, but it is, there were times when I would feel like her, like I just couldn't understand. I kept trying to understand the politics of everything about the coup, and it was so hard to kind of completely understand. Like, you have to grow up with it and go through it to understand the full history of it.
Now,
as the composer of Girl from Ipanema said, Brazil is not for beginners, right?
Yes, exactly. What was the other one he said about, Brazil, it's good, but
but it's good, but it's very bad.
Yeah.
And American,
no, it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. America is good, but it's bad. Brazil is bad, but it's good.
I like that. I like that. This character of Elizabeth, she is she's painfully shy, and then suddenly we get this unleashed sexuality from her, and suddenly she's taking charge in one moment that you don't see that. Have you played a character as rich and just as so different as this woman's?
Not, I mean, this would have to be one of the best characters I've ever had, written on the page. I've had a few that I thought were as interesting and complex as this, but not many, maybe like 3 that I could think of offhand. I love characters that are surprising, that are ambiguous, that you can't quite work out what they're doing, and they do something and you're like, oh, right, okay, like, yes, that's true, but I didn't see it coming. And really, I mean, Elizabeth had a very strong relationship with another woman before this, so she's not an ingenue by any means. And I had a strong feeling that she really knew her way around in the bedroom, actually. But she it was very discreet because she felt she had to be, and also for the sake of her work. I think she didn't want her work to have any other connotation on it. She wanted the poetry to speak for itself, and she didn't want to have any kind of life that was going to, impede on the purity of her poetry.
There's a great conversation, and I only caught a bit of it that I scribbled down, where I think it's between Lota and Elizabeth, where we find out officially that Elizabeth does not like commitment, and I think she says, I already have a commitment to pessimism. And pessimism, did she say never disappoints?
Yes.
Is that the line? It's just a great line.
Pessimist is never disappointed.
That's it. It was a great line.
Well, I think it's true in her life. She suffered so much loss and disappointment all her life that she was always prepared for things to kind of finish or lose. She was seeing it before it even happened. Because I think that's what you do when you've had to give up so much throughout your life.
Well, Bruno, let me ask you, what does Brazil itself add to the texture of a film such as this? I mean, it seems like, as the backgrounds and cities do in certain movies, it becomes a character unto itself.
I think Brazil in the film is Lota. At least that was my intention. That I think that Bishop falls in love with Lota, and therefore Brazil. And I think Bishop ended up seeing Brazil very much through Lota. Of course, once she's been there for a while, then it wasn't all through Lota. But I don't know. I have the impression that when Bishop hugged Lota, they made a country themselves. That was their country.
Nice.
So that's I wanted to keep that sort of balance in the narrative.
And what about just the term in terms of the practical aspects of shooting a 1950s era film in modern Brazil, Rio, and in the country? Is there a challenge in terms of finding the costumes and the automobiles and the architecture, particularly to keep it pure and
The biggest challenge is the fact that the 50s are so in now. So how do you make a film set in the 50s look unique? Because there was a couple of times that I walked into the set. Of course, a couple of days before I was supposed to be shooting there, and I spotted a couch that I had seen in the waiting room of my dentist. And it was not wrong period-wise. It was very accurate period-wise, but it was a mod today's 50s. Although it was 50s. So the challenge was, how do we make a film set in the 50s, but with a special, a unique look? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest challenge. Besides that, it was just technical challenges of a blue screen. I had never, I'm sure Miranda had used a lot of blue screen, because of Lord of the Rings. I had never had to deal with all this blue screen thing, and it's
also painting out the lampposts in a couple of places.
Yes.
Or, yeah.
There was a lot of technical limitations because of the special effects and also the CGI work that was done in post-production.
Wait, stop. Blue screen in this film? Where was there blue screen? I didn't even.
Oh, it's a secret.
A lot.
Yeah.
All the construction of the park, we couldn't shoot in the actual park. We only shot in the actual park when Bishop is going away back to New York and stops and gets off the cab to look at the lamppost. Everything else was shot just in a completely different place with huge blue screens, and then the Guanabara, the Bay of Rio and the Sugarloaf were all like
put into it
afterwards.
Wow. Okay. Because I heard that and I was like, what? where were the little guys with the big feet? If we're talking about the never mind. And Bruno, did you ever consider calling it Lota and her two wives? I mean, it would have worked.
That's a very interesting question, because yesterday a journalist came to me and said, "So, how many films have you made that were a threesome?" I said, "What?"
And how many more will there be?
Well, yeah, there is a symmetry there. It's true, and yeah, it's Lot and her two wives, exactly. It's like the Rio Clara, who was called Monica in real life, said, "I had three moms. My mom, Mary, my grandmother, Lota, and my auntie, Elizabeth." So that's how she said. I was, raised by three mother figures. Anyway, but it is an interesting triangle, and that was I think the essence, the dramatic essence of the narrative, the relationship between the three of them.
All right. Well, Miranda, before we wrap up, I have to ask for my daughter, since she literally looked over my shoulder and said, "Wait, she was in Lord of the Rings." So I want to ask a question for her. This is not her question, but it is for her benefit. What is your fondest memory of having been part of this whole Lord of the Rings, this big cinematic success? A couple of years on, what do you remember most fondly about it?
I think one of the things I'm going to remember most fondly is when I actually get to watch it with my own daughter. She's 8 and she hasn't seen it yet. I don't feel like she's quite old enough to see it yet. So it's exciting to think that you did something that you can show your children that they'll get a buzz out of and think that, you're in that. But I have a lot of fond memories of working on that, because it was really like a big family the whole time that we worked on it. Even though it was a big movie, it was very intimate, and everybody was, very supportive of each other. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed going to Pete and Fran's house, the times that we would go over there. That was it just was like a big family.
Yeah, it must have been very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, folks, listen, you can find Bruno Barreto's new film, Reaching for the Moon, starring Miranda Otto, in limited release in December 2013, and in many more cities nationwide beginning in January 2014. For theaters near you, please visit the film's website, which is reachingforthemoonmovie.com. And Bruno Barreto and Miranda Otto, thank you so much for joining us today on Mr. Media.
Thanks. You. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Ciao.
Bye.
You can see and hear almost 1,000 Mr. Media interviews by visiting our main site, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Or check out the more than 200 video interviews on the Mr. Media radio site on YouTube. And I'd sure appreciate if you'd show some love from Mr. Media's advertisers, including Stitcher. Apple named Stitcher a top 5 news app of 2011. It's a free mobile app for your smartphone or tablet that lets you listen to your favorite shows and discover the best of news, entertainment, and sports on demand. You can listen whenever you want to more than 5,000 shows, get customized recommendations, and discover what your friends are listening to. My own list of Stitcher favorites is pretty eclectic. I start my day with an hour of MSNBC's Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. Then it's the latest 2-minute update from the Onion News Network. After that, I'll listen to WTF with Mark Maron, Here's the Thing with Alec Baldwin, HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, and excerpts from E's Chelsea Lately and The Soup with Joel McHale. Also in regular rotation on my Stitcher playlist, the BS Report with ESPN's Bill Simmons, the TechCrunch Headlines, and the Don Geronimo Show. The latest episodes of each show, whether originating from broadcasts, cable TV, radio syndication, or podcasts, are continuously updated. Stitcher is a free app for your iPhone, iPad, Kindle, Fire, BlackBerry, Droid, and more. And show your support of Mr. Media by getting, did I mention it's free? The app at stitcher.com/MrMedia. That's stitcher.com/MRmedia. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. We're also supported by Audible. Check out Audible's 30-day trial membership and download the audiobook version of the book everyone's been talking about, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Sign up for your free trial today at audible.com/radio. Again, audibletrial.com/radio. And finally, if you need a disc jockey for a wedding, bar mitzvah, corporate event, or just a big old party, please consider calling 1-800-DIAL-DJs, the party authority for all your party entertainment needs. You can call 1-800-DIAL-DJs or go to their website, 1-800-DIAL-DJs.com, and tell them Mr. Media sent you. And thanks for listening.
I'm confused.
No problem.
No, correct me because I don't know. I'm completely lost. Did you say everything? I just smiled.
No, you say it too.
Huh?
And she says her name, and then she can say any more.
Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Bruno.
And hi, I'm Miranda, and you're watching Mr. Media. Bye.
This was the first one for me. Had you ever done it?
On Skype? No, I never have.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But where's the camera?
Where is it again? It's there.
Oh, it's there. It's here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've Skyped with people on my iPad, but I've never done it as a interview.
Yeah.
At least it was a good connection, because sometimes I Skype, you might Skype with the director or someone about work, and
Yeah,
our
so-
Skype at home is really bad, and it cuts out, and then their mouth is out of sync, and you're
Yeah,
just
it's awful.
I'd rather just talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Skype is odd. It has a little bit of a tinny sound to it.